So, hi guys! So we are group 2 and today we are really excited to show you some of our tips for succeeding in every kind of listening test. And now let's get started.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, wait,
Well, the listening test is designed to assess a wide range of listening skill, including how well you understand the main idea and specific detail, recognize the attitude of a speaker, and just follow the development of an argument. Now, the first lesson is usually form filling or table completions, which is considered to be the most simple part in the test, but it will surprise you how many students throw away easy point. Now, you have to listen to a conversation between two people in everyday social context, talking about booking a holiday, rent a car, and joining a gym, for instance. Well, the test aims to test listener ability to listen for factors information as times, dates, and numbers. Therefore, make sure you are familiar with numbers and the numbers that cause you problems personally and the English alphabet fresh in your mind. While in the time provided before the start of recording, it is best to skim all the pages to get an overall understanding of what the listening passage is about. While skimming means that you read to get the main information, and you can do this by focusing more on the nouns, the verbs, and the adjective of the sentence, and less on the articles and prepositions. But besides, redaction is also an important skill in all areas of a listening test, but crucially important in the form filling or table completion sections. For example, in this example, we can accurately predict what we are going to hear is a room number or a time. But that means we can completely focus on those two items, making it much easier for us to get the correct answer. And also, this is one of the areas that the examiner tries to trick you by giving a number of different pieces of information when only one of them is correct. One common trick is that the speaker will read one piece of information and then correct it later in the recording. Well, if they do this, always write down the second piece of the corrected information. Well, that is some of my advice for dealing with listening tests, and hope that it can help you to complete the test successfully. But the most important thing is to practice the over and over again.
Another very common task style that can appear in the listening test is the short answer questions. You have probably done a similar type of question in reading and listening comprehension exercises in other exam or lessons. Let's see what a short answer question would like in the listening test. As you can see, listening tasks that require test takers to write down short answers to questions are very similar to gap filling tasks. However, the former can sometimes be more difficult as they demand more information processing, and much of the time the keywords to the answers are not apparent in the questions. The short answer only requires exact keyword from listening text, which means you're not supposed to write a sentence or use synonyms or paraphrase the answer. These questions are there to see how you can locate the specific information and recognize when some are unnecessary. So, what should candidates do to handle this kind of test? Here are some useful tips for this. The first important thing is to read the instruction to see how many answers you need to work out and check the given word limit carefully. For example, you may ask to write no more than 2 words for each answer, or write no more than 3 words and dollar number for each answer. The second point is that you should quickly look through all the information you have. Don't forget to underline the types of information and keywords in each question. Then try to predict the answers, or what types of words would be appropriate: noun, verb, adjective, or adverb. For verb, add yourself with the missing words. Tense might be past, present, or future. For nouns, ask yourself if the missing word are singular or plural. The question sometimes requires two answers, or the answers are part of the chocolate. In this situation, you will have to get more courage to get a mark, but the order where you write it does not matter. By the way, the answers are always in text order. For example, you will hear the speakers giving the answer to question 11 before the answer to question 12, and so on. Remember that the answer you write will be exact words that you have heard in the recording, not paraphrases or synonyms of those. If you do miss something during the listening, don't panic. Just keep trying to focus on the rest of the exam. At the end, you will have to make the best guess from the question you missed or were not sure. And obviously, this is better than leaving a blank space. And you never know you might answer correctly.
And now let's move on to the next part. Most common mistakes in gap filling tests and how to avoid them. So when dealing with blank filling listening comprehension tests, it is very likely that test takers might make more than 2 mistakes if they haven't practiced enough. So I have found out the most common mistakes, which including misspelling, giving more or less information than required, wrong word forms, and last but not least, malapropism. Misspelling happens the most, in my opinion. Well, to be honest, I sometimes misspelling with only a S. And then we might give way more or less information than required. So here's an example. So the audio says that politicians use the media during political campaigns to get support. Well, however, the correct answer here is only campaigns. Giving out unneeded information can even lose the points, or less information than required. Take this for example. Entertainers use it to stay in the public. But in fact, the correct answer here is public eye. Basically, both mistakes apply the same. And so next we have wrong word form. The most common errors including mistaking singular nouns for plural nouns and vice versa. So for example, we have here is the word apologize. Apologize are often mistaken for each other. So here, for the next one, malapropism. This is just basically to misheard a word and fill the blank with a completely non-related word. It may sound quite hilarious sometimes. For example, you say like, there are 2 kinds of newspaper, the quality papers and the tabloid. Tabloid, Tabloids. Well, however, you may miss here as it as like tablet, the iPad or the Samsung Galaxy Tab. Well, it doesn't make sense, right? Obviously, the tablet is not a type of newspaper, so you are just making up a new word. No, more like a new definition for it. So comes the question: how to avoid making such mistakes? Well, so my best advice is that practice makes perfect. Do practice as much as you can and take notes every error you make. So as well as words you don't know, like do you know the word tabloids? Well, and so make sure to like double check every answers before submitting or moving on to the next section. It takes only seconds, but you might find some mistake and cost you tons of points afterwards. So yeah, that's the end of my part. Thank you.
One of the most challenging kinds of exercises in listening tests is matching main idea. In this task, you are supposed to listen to 5 monologues, each from different speakers on the same topic. There are normally 8 options, and you have to decide which speakers you belong to, and there will be possibilities that are not used. The introduction to the assignment belongs and always the same. Therefore, when listening for the task, you should need to pay attention to two things: the topic of the monologues and the requirement you are asked to listen to. For example, in the example, the topic is a visit to a city, which probably means vocabulary about travel and cities, and you have to say which speaker like most about the cities. This part of the exam mainly aims to assess how you understand the speaker's attitudes and opinions, as well as your ability to work out the overall meaning of what someone is saying. So, a tip for you while listening is to try to figure out the word that express the speaker's feeling and attitudes. You have 30 seconds to prepare before listening. Instead of waiting, use the present time to read through all the options and try to understand the meaning as much as you can. Remember that the recording usually uses a different way from the question on paper. Figuring out the way the paraphrase the text is the key to solve the puzzle. The common mistake that a lot of candidates make is to pick up the answers that have the same words as hearing the audio. However, if you choose the answer that has the exact word, it's 98% not the correct answer. In the process of practicing for the test, you should make an effort to listen and be familiar with different accents. There are many types of English accent, for example, British accent, American accent, Canadian accent, and people seem to be fond of the accent that they would like to listen and imitate more than other kinds. However, the speaker from the text may be from different countries and speak different tongues. Therefore, no matter how annoying you are, it's necessary to get to know all of them to make sure you will not get confused by taking the official test.
Now, let's find out about the tip for matching details classifying. You may need to do this type of question in listening test. For this question type, you are required to match a number list item or the listening test to a set of lateral options on the paper. There will generally be more possible options than the number of questions, and the job to find the most suitable options for the number of questions. Now, it is important to check the instruction carefully. I'll show you how to do this task. Let's look at the example of the matching task. In the preparation time, you need to read the task to find out the topic, what the task covers, and what the keywords are. The instruction will tell you how many times each option can be used. So, always read the instruction carefully. For a poll example, you may choose any letter more than one. It means that options A to C can be repeated in the answer from 1 to 5. Due to the fact that the idea in the list of options might not be expressed in the same way as though on the recording, maybe either the item or the category will probably be paraphrased. Therefore, never listen for particular words or phrase. With the style of matching one item more than option, you need to have an overall view of the recording to find out the suitable and correct answer. This will make it easier if you practice every day with an effective method. Pay attention to linking words such as even though, but, however, and although, which shows the meaning of changing. This easily makes candidates choose the wrong answer because of misunderstanding the text. There is no doubt to say that this is such a difficult task that candidates can easily lose score. Only one incorrect answer can lead to all the wrong choices. Compared to FCE listening, the recording are going to play only once on the V-step test, so it will not have a second chance to check the answer. That's why you should have a good preparation and hope that this tip will help you somehow. Thank you for watching.